right? You guys let me know if my screen is visible or not. Everyone, screen visible है? ठीक है, ठीक है. So basically this is gonna be your project ka structure. You guys will be like, it's a dummy for now, it's for another batch, but इस तरीके से you guys will be mapped, right? You'll have your name, you'll have your student code and all, and साथ में you'll be given a website, right? So basically आपको क्या करना है? Let's say if I click on this big basket, right? If I click on this website, it will take me to a web page, right? All you have to do is you have to create this layer. ठीक. So again, for now you have 3 days to do this project. So क्या करोगे? You'll be basically, let's say you pick this dashboard, जिसको भी this website is assigned, and you'll start creating this dashboard first. ठीक. Again, you don't have to create this entire thing. Let's say if you guys have been given this, what you will do is you'll start with this thing. Let's say ये nav bar बनाना है, right? So we all can do this nav bar, right? Everyone can create this nav bar. ठीक. We have 2 divs. उसमें evaluation भी है. Evaluation कब है? Guys, I don't think the evaluation is planned for you guys. Project है, that's all. ठीक है. So देखो यहाँ पे so यहाँ पे you have like these 2 boxes, right? उसमें you have your flex applied and all. उसके बाद then you have this grid structure. So ऐसा नहीं है कि you'll go and create everything, जैसे यहाँ पे everything, each and everything. You'll just create a page version. Let's say कि this is a page view, right? तो ये एक page view है. You can add this thing also, and then you can directly go for footer and all. Right? Basically, it should be a product जिसको देख के लगे कि yeah, that website is clone. ठीक, ठीक. So sort of, yeah, that not exactly dummy, it will be more of a clone type of structure. ठीक, क्योंकि going forward क्या होने वाला है? For now, you guys are just gonna do this static web page, right? For now, you guys don't know if I click on this button, how will I see the next batch of data? No, you guys don't know that for now. So अभी के लिए you'll be just creating static data. The buttons will be there, but button काम नहीं करेंगे. ठीक. उसी तरीके से if you guys want to one up your project, आप क्या करोगे? Let's say कि if I click on T, right? So it's gonna take me in that T section, right? So you can create like 2-3 pages, right? एक dashboard बनाओगे and you can create 2-3 product pages, right? And in those product page, again, you can just create the static layout. That's all, right? And are we aware how can we link 2 pages? Anchor tag के बारे में पढ़ा है? नहीं. So we'll be covering it today. I'll cover it quickly for you guys. एक बार समझा दूंगा how that works. Right? So basically you can create multiple pages and anchor tag लगा के you can just hook those things. ठीक, it's easy, not a big task. Right? ठीक. So yeah, you can start doing this. 14% off कैसे करें? Position पढ़ा है हमने, right? Position पढ़ा है ना? तो पोजीशन में गो एक्सप्लोर रिलेटिव. जब आप रिलेटिव अप्लाई करोगे ना, पोजीशन रिलेटिव, तो जो टॉप एंड बॉटम एंड लेफ्ट एंड राइट वाले थे ना, यू कैन स्टार्ट अप्लाइंग. सो इफ यू रिमेंबर लास्ट सेशन में हमने नैव बार के साथ टॉप 0 लेफ्ट 0 लिखा था विद पोजीशन फिक्स्ड. रिमेंबर. तो उसी तरीके से यू कैन डू एग्जैक्ट सेम थिंग विद रिलेटिव. जैसे पोजीशन फिक्स क्या करता है? इट टेक्स थिंग आउट ऑफ डॉम और वो व्यू पोर्ट के हिसाब से उसको रखता है. बट रिलेटिव क्या करेगा? वो व्यू पोर्ट के हिसाब से नहीं रखेगा. लेट्स से कि ये div इसका पेरेंट है, राइट? दिस div इज पेरेंट ऑफ दिस स्मॉल कार्ड, तो वो div के हिसाब से ऊपर आ जाएगा. राइट? अगेन प्रोजेक्ट है, इट्स अ गुड टाइम टू एक्सप्लोर CSS एंड ऑल, सो डू दैट. सबको एक ही प्रोजेक्ट करना है? नो, एवरीवन विल बी असाइंड अ डिफरेंट प्रोजेक्ट. अ शीट विल बी शेयर्ड विद यू गाइस, जहां पे you'll have your name और जो भी वेबसाइट असाइन हुई है. ठीक है, ठीक है. ऑल्दो यू डोंट हैव टू क्रिएट एनी फंक्शनैलिटीज, सब कुछ स्टैटिक रहने वाला है. अगेन गाइस, नैप बार बनाना है, फ्लेक्स, दिस कार्ड एंड ऑल, राइट? इफ यू क्लिक ऑन समथिंग, यू आर विजिटिंग दैट. ठीक. तो एक डैशबोर्ड बनाओ एंड एटलीस्ट क्रिएट सम पेजेस. ठीक. तो ये तो होने वाला है आपका फर्स्ट स्टेप, राइट? व्हाट डू आई मीन बाय फर्स्ट स्टेप? यू मस्ट बी अवेयर अबाउट दिस कैलेंडर, राइट? आपका आगे सिस्टम कैसे चलने वाला है ना. ठीक, तो in here there was this thing mentioned कि like your first project will be in, right, यहाँ पे. So your project will start by today or tomorrow, right? And by 1 you will be done with your पहला project का whatever setup you have done, right? So it will be a static web page. उसके बाद from next week onward, आज we'll be covering whatever essential thing there is in JavaScript, right? So जो basic चीज है, we'll be just covering that. And from next week onward now, will we start implementing those things. Take, so by the end of next week, you guys will be made aware about something जिसको बोलते हैं DOM, right? And once that DOM is done, you'll be able to, जैसे for now we have just created static web page, right? अभी कोई भी when if you're pressing any button, nothing is happening, right? Then by next week you'll be able to implement these features also, right? If you press, you're gonna do something. And ठीक, तो we'll be covering that. Again, same ही website रहेगा, right? All you have to do is you have to just update it with whatever you have learned so far. ठीक, so ये guys, ये जो update करने का काम है ना, it's gonna be an active or dynamic one from your side only. ठीक, so by next Monday, you guys will be done with a static page, right? Let's say कि मैंने जाके एक static page बना दी. ठीक, then by next Monday, मतलब let's say if we are talking about this Monday, right? Then once this week is over, by in here, you should be able to implement DOM वाले features in your website. जितना भी वो week में हमने सीखा है, right? Whatever we have learned in that week. ठीक, you API मिलेगा. For now you don't need API. For now you don't need API. ठीक, जब API के need आएगा ना, I'll tell you. ठीक, okay. Wait, let me see how I can do that. Attendees can chat with. ठीक है, so now the link should be in there. चलो, इतने फास्ट जाएंगे. फास्ट विल बी देयर, बट आई श्योर यू गाइस समझ सब कुछ आएगा. ऑल यू हैव टू डू इज कान खुले रखने हैं एंड प्रैक्टिस करना. ठीक, एक्सेल शीट यू गाइस मस्ट बी शेयर्ड विद दिस कैलेंडर, राइट? कैलेंडर तो शेयर हो गया. इफ नॉट, स्प्रिंट प्लान शेयर होता है ना, राइट? तो आई एम जस्ट टेलिंग यू कि लॉन्ग रन में होने क्या वाला है, right? Right, so this is what's gonna happen. Aaj we are, by the end of session you'll be starting with the project. By Monday we'll ending that project. फिर next week में जो भी सीखेंगे we'll implement that thing in your project again. Then again next week में whatever we are gonna learn, we're gonna implement that in project. And by 14th, right? By 14th you should be able to create a nice little dynamic project. ठीक, and once that is done, फिर यहाँ पे will be covering fetch and all. तो उसके बाद you'll be able to create a entire website from end to end. ठीक, so yeah, the project is gonna be same from starting. If you have gotten Blinkit, तो you'll be starting with Blinkit, static website ही बनाओगे. And then फिर next week में we'll be learning how we can make websites dynamic. तो वो you will implement it in the same code. ठीक है, you don't have to start everything from scratch. Right, this is allotted. Firstly, there will be assignment, right? Ek assignment will be released for your project. And the guidelines, again, guidelines is going to be exact same thing, but wahi cheese will be there, plus the sheet what you have been assigned will also be there. ठीक है, ठीक है. Project कब मिलेगा? Assignment will be released maybe today, maybe tomorrow. ठीक, क्योंकि I don't think, no. Scroll down and this is for some other batch, guys. को मिल जाएगा. You'll get yours. You don't have to worry about that. ठीक है, so is it clear कि प्रोजेक्ट कैसे करना है, कैसे चलने वाली है चीज गोइंग फॉरवर्ड? ऑलराइट, ठीक है. तो बैक टू लेक्चर्स एंड ऑल. अगेन, जितना भी मीडिया क्वेरीज तक आपने पढ़ा है, यू जस्ट हैव टू अप्लाई दैट गाइस. तो यू डोंट हैव टू वरी कि हाउ कैन आई अप्लाई बटन वाला फीचर एंड ऑल. यू डोंट हैव टू थिंक अबाउट दैट. right? JavaScript you're starting to learn today, so you don't have to apply JavaScript. Next week may just go and apply. Like, can we use Tailwind? If you are aware, I would say कि go for it, but if you're not, it's not a necessity. What is DOM? Next week बताओ. I'll tell you next week. प्रोजेक्ट का स्ट्रक्चर डिसाइड करने में प्रॉब्लम होता है. व्हाट इज देयर टू डिसाइड समथिंग इन अ प्रोजेक्ट, राइट? ये रहा ब्लिंकेट, ठीक. ये रहा ब्लिंकेट. एक कॉपी लो, पेन लो एंड जस्ट स्टार्ट ड्राइंग, राइट? I'm gonna divide it in few sections. I'm gonna have a nav bar. उसके बाद everything below it is gonna be in one div, right? Then every items in nav bar is gonna be flex and all. So just draw a rough structure and उस पे start implementing it. But yeah, again, if you're going for a project, you should always have a bird's eye view, right? एक overall idea होना चाहिए कि what you want to do and how you want to apply. Right, so I would highly recommend to keep a diagram in your mind how you're gonna go about things. Trial and error is not very good thing to go about. Media queries तक की use करना है? Yes, you just have to do whatever you have taught in last 2 lectures, nothing from today. Fine. All things come under HTML file only. Yeah. Again, one more small thing. So remember I told you guys कि you can connect 2 different pages, right? So कहाँ गया? This web page one, right? This was something that we had done in last lecture, right? So यहाँ पे remember these buttons, right? So what I can do is in this button, I can go and write an anchor tag. So for those who haven't explored anchor tag yet, what you do is basically these tags are there to link URLs, right? So let's say in this anchor tag, I want to link another page, right? So I'll write href, which is basically a hyperlink reference. And what I'll do is I'll pick the name of my files. So this is flex.html, right? If I want to hook flex.html, I'll write flex.html. And now what will happen if I click on this button, I'll be able to visit this web page, right? Let me show you. So currently we are in here. If I click on this press me, you'll see we are visiting that flex.html wala page. So this is how you can combine multiple different pages. Right? So yeah, that's how you can do it. Again, if you're worried about case में text decoration and all आ रहा है, तो remember how we removed border. Border कैसे remove किया था? Just like that, you can remove anything in here, right? So all you have to do is, let's say if I want to pick the button के अंदर क्या है? Anchor tag. So I'm gonna pick navbar container. उसके बाद उसके अंदर I'll pick my button and button के अंदर I have an anchor tag. In here, I'll go and pick text decoration, right? So it's an underline, text decoration and then underline. Right? Recording is on, guys. Recording is on. So all I have to do is I have to write none in here. Take. So if I go back, you'll see there is no text decoration anymore. Take. And now even though I'm clicking on it, I'll be visiting this. Right? So again, you guys know 90% of thing. All you have to do is you have to start applying it. That's all. Could you show the CSS in the app bar? This code was shared in last lecture. Right? Last lecture, I've shared the code. Go unzip it and you can explore everything. Right? Guys, you're able to find the code zip, right? Notes के सबसे ऊपर the code zip is present at the top of the notes. Just click on it. You'll get the zip file, unzip it, and you will be able to access all the folders. Right? Logo का size कैसे change कर सकते हैं? You have to select the image and image को you can fix it. Zip file में क्यों देते हो? Because that's a way of sharing files. That's the only reason. ठीक. अच्छा चलो guys. Now we should really get started with JavaScript. Take, because we are already delaying stuff. So let me just start with JavaScript. Chalo. So before starting, tell me what do you guys know about JavaScript? आपको क्या लगता है? आपको क्या पता? Okay, dynamic. Can I associate it with a scripting language? याद है? Remember? HTML was like structure, CSS was like styling, and scripting language was there to be brain, to be static, dynamic, to be scripting language, right? Most useful programming language. Okay. Okay. So now let's say if I'm creating an index.html file. In here, if I go and write 2 plus 2, what am I gonna get? What am I gonna get if I write 2 plus 2? How many of us think ki if I run this file, I'm gonna get 2 plus 2, basically 4, or I'm just gonna get exact this thing जो कि मैंने लिखा हुआ. Exact same. We have done HTML. We know what's gonna happen. All right, we're gonna get exact same thing. Okay. Maybe if it's written in body, that's the reason. If I go and write it in paragraph or heading, will the result be any different? Paragraph या heading में जाके लिखूंगा तो will the result be any different? No. Why? Because it's a markup language. All it does is it showcases whatever we have written inside the content, right? It does not compile it. It does not runs it, right? For that, we need something which can pick these things, pick these logics, compile them and run them and provide us a solution, right? Right. So basically, we are picking JavaScript as our scripting language because it is more easily readable, plus it's very efficient, right? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to create a file, right? I'm going to call it index.js file, right? So again, .js is there to run my JavaScript, right? Right. .js. Now, before you want to run this in your system, there are two ways of running JavaScript in system. First thing is, if you want to run it in a file like this, what you guys will have to do is basically, you'll have to go and install Node.js, right? So Node.js is something that you guys will have to install on your system, right? What is Node.js? It's a runtime for JavaScript. जो JavaScript का whatever code you have written, right? Overall क्या होता है कि we have a low level language and a high level language, right? So we're gonna have two things, right? One thing is gonna be high level language, right? And the other thing, which is basically gonna be low level language, right? So how we speak and how we respond, how humans make conversation, ये जो होता है ना, that is basically high level of language, right? Our conversations are complex. Yes, we speak things in multitudes of direction. मतलब उसमें काफी layers होती है, but system won't be able to understand these things, right? Directly नहीं समझेगा. Now you guys will say कि ChatGPT को तो मैं जो भी बोलता हूँ it understands. It's not exactly that. At the very fundamental level, na, system won't be able to understand this, right? So I hope you guys are familiar with this. It understands something which is in binary format, or if it's in 1 or 0, right? Right. So basically, जो compiler होता है ना, what it does, it converts our high level language into a low level language, right? So basically compiler, runtime, you're gonna hear many things. You can just compose it into a single umbrella definition. You can call it an environment, right? So scripting languages are gonna need an environment to process their high level language into low level language, or finally 1.0 that our system can understand and process. Take, so that's why you'll have to download this so that your VS Code can support JavaScript. Take, or for now, if you haven't done that, right, all you can do is index.html में we have seen that we can add a style tag, right? उसी तरीके से we can go and add a tag which is called script. Take, and in this script tag we can go and write JavaScript. Right, so let's go and see where I can find this JavaScript wala code if I run my file, right? If I run this file, All you have to do is you have to do a right click in here. You have to click on inspect, and uske baad you'll be going somewhere which is called console. Right? So in here, you will be able to see whatever you have written in JavaScript. Right? Why can't we write it in header? Okay, so again, a small thing. Let's say if I put the script in header, right? So जो JavaScript है ना, that is gonna run before your content has been loaded, right? So going forward, you're gonna see कि we are gonna write something which is called functions. So let's say if your function was dependent on some content, right? So वो function is gonna get defined very initially rather than the content. So it's usually suggested कि body के बाद ही you write your script tag. ठीक, ठीक, okay. Now the second thing comes, ठीक है, we have written our script tag. Now how will I see the result? Let's say if I go and write 1 plus 1, how is it gonna show me 2? Right? So basically, हर एक language में there is gonna be a print statement. Right? There is gonna be a print statement. So basically, JavaScript में that print statement has a keyword which is called console.log. Right? And in this console.log, you are gonna create a bracket, and in here, if I go and write 2 plus 2, what's it giving me? 4. Right? That's an expected answer. If I go and write 2 into 2, it's gonna give me 4. Right? So this is how we run our JavaScript and we print stuff. Right? But going forward, we're not just gonna print things. Right? हमें क्या करना है? Final goal is to make our websites dynamic. Right? If you're clicking on button, something is gonna happen. If you're filling some input, something should happen. Right? So for that, we need something which are called variables or boxes, right? Basically, let's say कि again, guys, if you want to comment JavaScript का code, all you have to do is you have to add double forward slashes, right? Or you can just select whatever you want to comment out and press a control plus forward slash, right? So now back in here. Now let's say if you guys have a calculator, right? So in that calculator, I said you, मैंने आपको बोला कि you have to do multiplication के operations. So are you always gonna go do and 2 into 2, or you're gonna go and you can write multiple different numbers? You can write multiple different numbers, right? So basically we need some place where we can store these variables, right? So if you guys remember in mathematics, what we used to do is we used to define x, and x ko we were giving a value 2. Then we were defining y, and y ko we were giving value 4. And then let's say I have a variable जिसको मैं बोलता हूँ z, and in this z I can do x plus y. Was this thing viable? Was this thing viable? And why were we doing this? कर क्यों रहे थे ये? So that the numbers can be changed, right? But the solution देने का जो तरीका है, that's gonna be still same, right? So basically, again, as every language needs a print statement, every language needs a place to store these things which are called variables, right? JavaScript में the keyword is var, right? So basically you define a variable with a var, and then you tell कि आप उस variable का नाम क्या रखना चाहते हो, what do you want to name that variable with, right? So let's say if I go in here and I call it my variable, right? So now this variable will have a name which is going to be my variable, and if I go in here, I'm going to give it a value 10, right? वैसे तरीके से I can go and create my variable 2, right? And in this I can go and give value, right? So if I go and do 10 plus 20, just like I'm gonna go and get 30 right here, right? So what do you guys think? If I do my variable plus my variable 2, what should I get? If I do my variable, right? If I write my variable, I'm getting 10. If I write console.log my variable 2, I'm getting 20. If in third print statement, I go and write my variable plus my variable 2, am I getting 30? right? So basically we have created variables in which we can store the values, right? And this is how we can start doing at least operations with them. All right. But again, going forward, you guys will notice that we don't always need to put numbers in our variable. What do I mean? Let's say if we are visiting websites like Flipkart, right? Do you guys need to log in these websites? Flipkart पे आपको log in करना पड़ेगा. If you go on Amazon, you have to log in, right? Right? Why do you log in? So that that website has your information. Tick. Okay, that's fine. Let's say if I log in, it will show my name in here, right? Something like Hi Ritesh or something. Yes? Yes? Have you guys noticed that? Right? But क्या सबके सिस्टम में हाई रितेश ही दिखाएगा और इट विल से देयर ओन नेम? It will say their own name, right? Whatever they have put in as an input. So what happens is in variables, we can store names, numbers, true, false, anything, right? We'll be discussing more about that shortly. But let's say I have a variable which is called name, right? Where name equals to if you guys want to store names now, you will need string format, right? This thing is called string, basically quotes, double quotes, and iske andar I can go and write name, right? And finally, I can go and do console.log name, right? So if I go and show you guys, now it's printing my name. But if I remove this quotes, right? अगर मैं quotes remove कर देता हूँ, so it's gonna give me an error. Right? Because it's a syntax. JavaScript समझता ही है कि yeah, if you wanna write characters, alphabets लिखने हैं, so you will have to put it in a string. Take now that own name वाला thing. What happens is when you define a variable, right? इस तरीके से when you define a variable, it goes through some phases, right? In hindsight, क्या हुआ when you define this variable? The variable was initialized as this var name, right? So this process is basically called initialization. Right? Now JavaScript ने क्या किया? It named this variable as this, and then in the second process, which is called assignment, उसमें that name is taken and उसको we give some value, right? I go and give Ritesh. So you see, we are still getting the solution, right? So we have initialization and then we have assignment. ठीक, then there's one more small phase which is called reassignment. कहने का मतलब in JavaScript, or let's say if I pick this name again and if I give it some other value, right? Let's say if I call it Rahul. So again, print statement is there and it's gonna print name, but is it printing Ritesh or is it printing Rahul? क्या print कर रहे हैं? It's printing Rahul. So basically it's getting updated, right? So if line number 26 was assignment, can I call line number 27 as reassignment? Right? हमने इसको assign किया एक value and then we are reassigning it another value. Right? So with this, don't you think we can apply something like this? Let's say if user has logged in, तो उनका in name I'm gonna store their name as Ritesh. But if some other user has logged in that name I'm just gonna update it with Ram. Doable? Doable? Take. So basically the values that we are storing in these variables, na, they have name, which is called data types, right? So they have a name, which is called data types, right? Now this is basically data plus types, right? So the values that we are storing is some sort of data and उस data के पास कुछ type है. So far हमने देखा कि we can store numbers in my variables, right? So this is a form of number data type. Right? उसके बाद we saw कि we can store characters and alphabets also. So anything from these things to your alphabets, capital, small, anything, these come under something which is called strings. Right? इस data type का नाम है string. Right? And then we can have other data types also, like we have Boolean. So you remember true and false, right? True, false, right? So true, false comes under Boolean data. ठीक है. So again, if I go and do console.log true, it's gonna print, or if I go and write false, it's gonna print false. Right? So if you guys want to confirm ki you have a variable and you want to confirm if it's a number or a string, let's say I have a variable which I'm gonna call num, right? But iske andar maine string ke andar number डाल दिया. So what do you guys think? Is this thing a number or is it a string? क्या लगता है? String, right? But if I go and print this now, you have just 12, right? Quotes तो है नहीं. So if I just look at it in here, do you guys think some other guy who hasn't written this code, he'll able to differentiate कि ये number है या string है? No. So if you wanna find that out, all you can do is before this variable, na, you can write a keyword which is called type. Right. So if I write type of na, it will tell me what kind of data type is stored inside that variable. Right. So if I go in here and if I write num equals to 12, now finally num has been assigned a number. So it's getting changed to number. Right now, if I go back in here and num को I go and call, I'm going to comment this one out क्योंकि आप मुझे solution बताओगे. If I go and write true in here, what do you guys think? What's going to happen? What should I be printing? Should I be printing Boolean? Boolean, right? So if I go and console this, type of लिखा है, that's why we are getting Boolean. Clear? Clear how you can find the data type and all? ठीक? Okay, that's great. So you guys might have noticed something in these three lines. In each and every line, we are giving a new data type to this variable. We are, yes, yes, yes. Now, here's the small thing. ये जो functionality है ना of adding new data type to this variable, this is a feature of JavaScript, right? So if you go in languages like Java and C++ and all, वहाँ पे you don't have this independence या freedom नहीं है, right? There you define variable with the data type itself. So let's say if I want to store an integer or number in my data type ना, मैं पहले data type define करूँगा, then I'll give it a name and then I'll store a variable. So if I go and update this variable with a string, no, it's gonna throw an error in languages like Java and C++. But JavaScript में क्या होता है? We can assign or reassign different data types to a variable. That's because in by nature JavaScript is loosely typed. Take and languages like Java or C++ and all, these languages are called strictly typed. Right? So strictly typed का मतलब they check the type of data in their runtime. फिर जब भी compile होते हैं ना, they go and check कि if you are putting a different data type in this variable, but that's not being checked in JavaScript. Clear? Clear? So if someone throws these terms loosely typed and strictly typed, you guys understand that. Right? Loosely typed simply means that in JavaScript, we can put different data type in a same variable. We can reassign a different data type to a same variable. Whereas in strictly typed languages, that does not happen. Right? So yeah, Python is also loosely typed. Right? It's somewhat familiar with JavaScript, but it's more readable a bit. Okay? Any doubt so far? Guys, any doubt so far? Anything? नहीं? 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 ठीक है. So I want you guys to do a small exercise. एक variable में go and store your name. Then in another variable, go and store your last name. Then in another variable, go and store your, let's say, PAN number. Right? Don't put real number, just put a dummy number. Take, so create these through variables and try printing it quickly. Everyone. Strictly typed basically, if you have a strictly typed language like JavaScript and C++, you won't be able to do this thing, right? If you have defined a variable with number, right? If you have initialized or declared a variable with a number, you can't reassign it with a string or Boolean or anything. Take, And okay, one more small thing. If you guys have to run, rather than running it on script tag, if you want to run it in file, right? Just say index.js file may you wanna run this console.log 1+1. So first thing first, you will be installing your Node.js, right? And Node.js install करने के बाद, just right click on this file and click on open in integrated terminal. एक बार ये ओपन हो जाए ना, so you see हम index.js वाले folder में this one. So all I am gonna do is I'm gonna write node and then I'm gonna write the name of this file which is index.js and I'll press enter. वो मेरा code run चल. ठीक है? Which version? Just download the community version, right? I hope community version is there. Take, so just download this thing, right? This one, that's fine. Right? आपको कोई version के बारे में सोचना है. Right, guys, variable बन गया, everyone. Saurabh, very good. Can I use replit? Yeah, sure. Sujil, correct. Ankur, very good. Pratik, very good. Mahesh, very good. Mahesh, Mukesh, take it. So I can see most of you guys are done. Take, so that's how simply you can define a variable and you can print stuff. Right? ठीक है. उसके बाद then there comes one small thing. Let's say if I have a variable which is called number1 which has 12 in it, right? And उसके बाद I have a variable which is called number2 and it has 12 in it, right? So according to you, if I do console.log 12 plus 12, we should have 24. We should have 24. ठीक है? Let's say if I go and do num1 plus num2, what are we expecting? क्योंकि given that हमने देखा if we are printing num1 ना, we were getting 12 there, right? ठीक है? So if I go and uncomment this piece of code, you see I'm getting 1 2 1 2 as output, right? So basically क्या हो रहा है? It's concatenating. What does concatenating means? You take one thing, you take another thing and you attach them together. Right? So basically keep a small thing in mind. If you have a string included, right? And along that, if you have a mathematical operator, which is plus, right? So if you have a string and if you have a plus, concatenation for sure is going to happen, right? So concatenation, if you want to find out, it's simple. You're going to have a string and you are going to have a plus sign, right? This is your cue to know that concatenation is going to happen. Now, how is this concatenation thing is happening between a string and number? Basically, एक छोटा सा process हो रहा है in hindsight, which is called type coercion. Right? Type coercion क्या होता है? JavaScript by default, what it does ना, if it finds things like this, different data type coming together, what it does, it converts a data type into another. Right? So let's say if I have a variable in here which says output, right? And isco I'm saying is num1 plus num2. If I write output, I'm getting this 1 to 1 2. But if I go and write type of, right? यहाँ पे type of लिखता हूँ तो I'm getting it as a string, right? So basically this num2 is getting coerced, it's getting converted into a string and then it's getting added, concatenated. Clear? Clear? So string concatenation के लिए keep small thing in mind. You should have a string and you should have a plus symbol, right? अभी देखना how quickly things fall apart. Let's say if I go and write multiply. Type of में क्या आ रहा है? Type of में क्या आ रहा है? We're getting a number now, right? So now what are we expecting in here? 144, right? So it's basically doing 12 into 12. Right? So again, keep this as a thumb rule. Concatenation तब होगा, the strings are gonna attach together. 1 plus 1 11 होने वाला है. कब? When you have a string and you have a plus sign, right? These two things are must. अगर नहीं है, if you have a different operator, type coercion दूसरे time पे काम करेगा. The string will be converted into a number, right? So if I go and write minus, you'll see कि minus is happening. If I go and write divide, divide will happen. Clear? Clear? Does it make sense? Sense बनाती है ये बात? Right? So just keep this line number 58 in mind. You won't have any trouble ever. Concatenation होने के लिए you should have a string and a plus symbol. This is must. ठीक है? ठीक है? All right. Now let's move towards something which are called operators, right? So basically in every languages, we are going to have operators. In operators, we're going to have mathematical operators first thing, right? So let's say if I have a equals to 10 where b equals to 20, you guys are aware about these symbols. Let me know कि किसी को नहीं पता है. I'll teach you guys. You know about plus, you know about minus, you know about divide, and you know about multiplication. कितने लोगों को नहीं पता है what happens when I do or use this thing between two variables? Everyone all good? All good? BODMAS भी याद है? BODMAS याद है? Right? So if I go in here and if I write console.log a plus b and multiply by a minus b, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Output क्या आना? Okay, I can see 300, I can see minus 300. Okay, so basically, if I just type it in here quickly, so we have 10 plus 20, basically 30, and usko multiply कर रहे हैं हम लोग with 10 minus 20, right? So finally, it's gonna be as 30 into minus 10, right? So it should be minus 300, right? Right. Just gonna keep it there. If I go and uncomment this, it's gonna be minus 300, right? But that's because I have attached a bracket between these two conditions. अगर मैं जाके bracket remove कर दूँ, do you guys think the output is gonna be different? लगता है क्या? Right? So yeah, output is now gonna be a bit different. Why so? Because BODMAS rule is being followed. जिनको नहीं पता है, पहले आप divide करते हो, right? Then you have multiplication, then you have addition, and then you have subtraction, right? This is the rule that must be followed. Okay, but if you want to prevent structures like this, all you can do is you can cover this thing in a bracket. Tick, tick. It's as easy as it is. Easy है? Easy है? कर लेंगे everyone? Tick. All right. Now there's one more small thing. दो और mathematical operators होते हैं, which are called mod and exponentiation operator, right? Basically, mod इस तरीके से represent होता है और exponential इस तरीके से represent. So let's say if I ask you guys what's the square of 2, क्या बोलोगे? Square of 2? 4. What's the square of 3? 9. So we're basically doing 3 ka power 2, right? When we are doing something like this. So how can we write this power thing? All you have to do is you have to go and write, let's say console.log in here. Let's say if I want to do a power of 3, so I'm writing 3 and I'll write asterisk twice, multiplication wala system twice likhunga, and then I'll write the power thing, right? So if I want to do square, I'll write power of 2. Take, so this thing is gonna give me 9. What will be the cube of 3? So it's gonna be 3 into 3 into 3, right? So now what's gonna happen? I'm just gonna copy this thing. All you have to do is you have to just increase the power by 3, right? So this is how you write power. Then let's say if you want to go for a remainder, you go for modulus operator, right? So if I do 10 divided by 2, what's gonna be the remainder of this thing? रिमाइंडर गाइज, रिमाइंडर भूल गए क्या? ये बना के दिखाऊंगे टोपी, ये देखो 10 और 2, 2 5 10, राइट? तो यहाँ पे 0 आने वाला है, तो इसको रिमाइंडर बोलते हैं ना, याद है? याद है? और इसको क्या बोलते हैं? क्वेश्चन, राइट? तो अभी डिवाइड करने पे क्या मिलने वाला है हमें? 5, है ना? Let me show you. If I go and write console.log 10 divided by 2, we are getting 5. We are getting quotient. But let's say if you want a reminder, you can write this. Take, you will get a reminder. All good? All good? ठीक है, मैं यहाँ पे एक छोटी सी ट्रिक बताता हूँ. Do a test on this. All even numbers modded by 2 will give 0. ये स्टेटमेंट को बताओ, इज इट ट्रू और इज इट फॉल्स? जस्ट राइट अ कंसोल स्टेटमेंट एंड जाके चेक करो. ट्रू, ट्रू. तो लेट्स पिक सम रैंडम even numbers. Let's say if I pick 12 and if I do a mod of 2, I'm gonna get 0. If I pick 1 2 2, I'm gonna still get 0, right? So all even number modded by 2 is gonna get as that. But let's say if I pick a odd number, I'm gonna get 1. Right? So going forward, you're gonna see multiple question which is gonna ask if this number is odd, if this number is even. All you have to do is you have to do a mod. If it's giving 1, then that number is odd. If it's giving 0, then that number is even. Even. Right? So now let's say कि given that हम complex program अब लिखना start करते हैं. So let's say एक प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट दिया गया हमें कि वी हैव बीन गिवन अ वेरिएबल नम, एंड इस वेरिएबल में वी डोंट नो व्हाट नंबर इज स्टोर्ड. बाय डिफॉल्ट 14 इज स्टोर्ड, राइट? वी हैव टू टेल दिस नंबर इज इवन. इफ इट्स इवन, एल्स हमें क्या प्रिंट करना है कंसोल पे जाके? दिस नंबर इज फॉल्स, राइट? तो बाय व्हाटएवर वी हैव लर्नड सो फार, डू यू थिंक दिस थिंग इज पॉसिबल? यस. ओके, यस लिखने वाले आर थिंकिंग इन इफ एंड कंडीशन. ठीक है, ठीक है. सो बेसिकली वी आर गोना हैव सम स्टेटमेंट्स जो कि हेल्प करेंगे हमारा इस चीज में, राइट? सो लेट्स से इफ आई हैव अ वेरिएबल नम व्हिच हैज अ वैल्यू 14. If it's 14, I want to print like if it's even, I want to print this number is even. If it's false, I want to print this number is odd, right? So I can use conditional statement which is called if else, right? तो if else एकदम ऐसे ही होता है जैसे हम सोचते हैं. Let's say we say if this number is divisible by 2, right? So इसका आंसर क्या आने वाला है इस ब्रैकेट का if it gets solved? It's gonna come 0, right? So if I write in here if number is divisible by 2 equals to 0, am I correct? मतलब ये इक्वेशन फाइन है? No? Yes? Okay, ठीक है. So somewhat what I'm asking is कि if number modded by 2 अगर वो 0 के बराबर आता है ना, I'm gonna go in here and I wanna write console.log this number is even, right? But if this number is not even, ये odd है, तो we can write a else statement and उसमें क्या होगा? We can write console.log this number is odd. But this thing is not gonna work, right? The reason being एक small reason है, ये equals we have seen this somewhere else, कहीं और देखा है क्या? Right? For those who don't understand क्या हो रहा है, जब हम वेरिएबल डिफाइन करते हैं we assign values by using equals to, right? So now we are confusing JavaScript by saying कि we are taking this thing and उसको हम एक value assign कर रहे हैं 0. Right? So guys, if ever you wanna check ki if something is equals to something, if you wanna write equations na with equal, you will do it with double equal, right? Double equals likhoge and then you're gonna get some answer, right? Now how this entire thing is working, basically syntactically wise, you can write if and else conditions, right? Now this if condition will run only if ये जो bracket में चीज है ना, whatever we have written in this bracket, it's true, right? Right? अब number divisible by 2 double equals to 0, ये चीज, was it true or was it false? Was it really equals to 0 or not? It was equals to 0. तो क्या हो रहा था? The code which was written between the curly brackets of this if condition वो रन कर रहा था, right? But let's say कि if this bracket के अंदर जो भी लिखा है that was coming out to be false, so we are gonna skip this entire curly bracket thing and हम else statement में घुस जाएंगे and we are gonna print that thing, right? Let me show you once. If I go and write true inside in here, right? मैं directly ही true लिख देता हूँ. So if I go and write console.log hello 1, so and let's say कि else में जाके मैं लिखता हूँ console.log hello 2. So you guys will see कि I'm printing hello 1. Why? Because if condition के अंदर I have written true, right? Okay. But let's say कि if मैं यहाँ पे जाके if I go and directly write false, what do you guys think what's gonna happen? Right? So basically false जैसे ही देखेगा ना if condition, what it's gonna do, it's gonna skip this entire thing and it's gonna move on to else वाला condition. Right? Right? So that's how basically if else condition run करते हैं. Let me just run it once. ठीक? So it's printing hello 2. उसी तरीके से now final मतलब finally this bracket should give a boolean value. So if I do something like this na, it's gonna give us a boolean value, right? Let me show you. Let's say if I do console.log and यहाँ पे जाके if I do 1 is equals to 1, is this thing true or false? 1 के बराबर है, yes or no? True. So in console I'm gonna get true as a result, right? That's exactly what's happening in. ठीक, उसी तरीके से let's say if I have var a equals to 20 and if I have var b equals to 10 and I go in here and if I do 10 equals to a minus b, what am I gonna get? अभी भी true आना है, right? Because 20 minus 10 will be equal to 10 and this thing is gonna be true. Right? Okay. Let's say if I remove 1 equals, abhi kya hoga? We are gonna confuse JavaScript. We are assigning or reassigning. What are we doing? JavaScript kya bolega? मैं नहीं assign करूँगा. I'm gonna throw an error. Right? So abhi we are gonna get an error. Right? So always if you're comparing stuff, do a double equals. Clear? Clear? उसी तरीके से if you guys remember that chonch wali thing, it's opening here or here. You guys remember this thing? What's this gonna do? क्या होने वाला है यहाँ पे? I'm basically checking if a number is greater than or equals to, right? Forget about false and true. Let's say if I do 10 is greater than 20. Is this thing true or is this thing false? False, right? If I want to check 10 is less than 20, this thing will be true, right? तो जिस तरीके से द मॉड एंड ऑल वाज कमिंग अंडर मैथमेटिकल ऑपरेटर ना, ये जो कंपेयर करने का चीज होता है, राइट? टू कंपेयर टू वेरिएबल्स विद, दिस थिंग इज कॉल्ड कंपैरिजन ऑपरेटर, right? So we can also use this thing between variables. So let's say if I go and run line number 109, what should I be getting? What should I be getting? Is 10 less than 10? Should I be getting false, right? Because 10 is equals to false. Tick, and it says A is not defined. Let me just uncomment these. Correct. ठीक है, ठीक है. Let's say if I go and write 10 is greater than A minus B. What do you guys think now? अभी क्या होने वाला है? अभी भी false. Okay. So if I uncomment it, it's still false, right? Because 10 equals है. But if you guys again remember कि हम एक और condition we can add it in here, we can check if it's greater than or equals to. Remember, right? Again, primary mathematics और कुछ नहीं है, right? So let's say if I write greater than or equals to, am I true or am I false? Right? तो मैं दो चीजें बोल रहा हूँ in here in this JavaScript को. I'm asking two things. If these two variables are equal, or at least this thing is greater than that. So now it's equal, right? So I'm gonna get true in here. उसी तरीके से if I go and write less than or equals to, what do you guys think? It's still true. It's still true, right? Less तो नहीं है, but yeah, it is equals. All right. Let's say if I make it 2, Abhi, is it gonna be false now? No. Why? Why? Is 2 equals to a minus b? No. But is 2 less than a minus b? Yes. तो इन दोनों में से अगर कोई भी कंडीशन ट्रू होगी, we just go and print that. Right? So now if I go in here, you'll see it's true. Clear है? Clear है? Everyone? Right? Okay. So let's say if I have a small question which says I have a variable temperature, and इसमें we're gonna have temperature. It can be anything from 20 to 120, right? ऐसे मैं बस एक range लिख रहा हूँ for you guys to understand. Let's say it can be anything from 20 to 120. अगर temperature is between 90 to 120, you guys will print it's very hot. But अगर temperature is between 50 to 90, you guys will say it's moderate. And if temperature is less than 50, you guys will print it's. Can we do this? We basically have to use comparison operator and if else condition together. Try करो everyone. Try करो. Try it quickly. In chat and VS Code पे try करो. That's fine. Okay, चलो we don't have that much time कि मैं पूरा 5 मिनट दूँ आपको solve करने के लिए. But do you think it's doable by using if else condition and greater than or equals to? Basically comparison operator और if else condition use करके हो जाएगा. Okay, let's see. So if I go and write if temperature, basically पहले हम variable define कर देते हैं. Let's say temperature is for now 50. ठीक. So मैं बोलूँगा if temperature is greater than 90, I'm gonna do console.log it's very hot. Right? ठीक. यहाँ पे let's say if I go in here, अभी I can only write a else statement, but still मुझे दो conditions और check करनी है. So now I can go and write else if also, right? So if first condition is not true, I'm gonna check if the second condition is true or not. Now in here, I'll write temperature is greater than 50, right? And यहाँ पे I'll write console.log it's right. Check, and finally I can go and write like this is last condition, so I can write if temperature is less than 50, I'll do console.log it's right. So else not else if, else directly. Take else के लिए you don't write this. All right. So what are we printing? It's cold. Is it fine? Okay. If I go and write 70 in here, तब क्या होने वाला है? If I make it 70, यहाँ पे जाके if I make it 70, it's moderate. Okay, so let's say if I go and write 17 here, I'm gonna get that. ठीक, but do you guys remember हमने range क्या तय किया था? We're checking if it's between 50 and 90, right? Right. तो अगर यहाँ पे जाके if I go and write 90, I'm gonna get it's moderate. Is it correct? We should be getting it's very hot, right? Range के हिसाब से. Yes. So what I can do is I can jump it up a bit. Is it working? Or should I decrease it by one? So if I make it maybe 89, it's working, right? But that's not exactly how ranges are gonna work, right? So we can go and simply write greater than or equals to, right? Fine. अभी ठीक है? अभी ठीक है? Right? So yeah, this thing is something that we can simply use. All right. So now this is fine. Chalo, let's talk about strings a bit, right? So let's say I have a string, right? And I call it name. So let's say this thing is called hello world, right? And if I go and write last name, and if I go and write hi then, so if I go and do console.log name plus last name, what should I be getting? Name plus last name. What should I be getting? So we have a string and we have a plus. So it's going to be concatenation, right? But unfortunately, हमें एक error आने वाला है, right? Read the error. What's the error? N is small, right? So JavaScript is case sensitive. You have to take case in consider. कि if it's small or capital, you have to fix that. ठीक है? That you have to take care of. All right. ठीक है. So going to move forward, but again, let's give you guys a break. ठीक. So have a break of 2 minutes, right? ज़्यादा नहीं, 2 minutes से, and then we'll take forward, right? So everyone be back by चलो 3 मिनट के ले लो. Be back by 13. Everyone. Right. I guess so. Everyone back. Okay, put one in chat if you guys are back. Everyone. See. Sure. So far so good. Any doubts? Anything? Any issues in JavaScript? नहीं आसान है JavaScript. Easy. At least so far. So far it's easy. ठीक ठीक है. चलो. So now let's say कि यहाँ पे क्या डिस्कस किया था या केस सेंसिटिव थिंग राइट. सो लेट्स से कि you're creating a password बनाने का सिस्टम राइट. सो यू हैव अ वेरिएबल जिसमें you're storing यूजर का पासवर्ड. ठीक. सो लेट्स से if you have this password and इसमें we have stored password 1 2 3 right. So basically you have a small question which says कि if the length of password is greater than 7 and it's a string, print strong password, right? So let's put this thing in next line. Strong password, else print weak password, right? So before you guys think about doing this, एक छोटा सा चीज है कि let's say if you have a string, right? Let's call it hello world. So if you want to find the length of this string, na, you can use a small keyword, basically str लिखो the name of that string and you add a dot and you add a length, right? This thing is going to give you length of this string. So with using this knowledge, can we achieve this thing? Okay, you are writing yes. Okay. So let's try to do this actually. Take, let's say I have this variable password. Let me just get this and paste over there. In here, if I write if password dot length is greater than 7, am I fulfilling this? Am I at least fulfilling this thing? Right? But uske baad a small thing is written and it's a string. Right? So it must be a string also. Right? So basically जब भी ऐसे condition हो ना in which you have to check two condition at once, right? We go for something which are called logical operator, right? So we basically go for some things which are called logical operators, right? And you're gonna find only 3 operators in here, basically and, or, and not, right? So before we do this thing, let me quickly explain you ये करते क्या है. So let's say if I have a true and true, right? So basically मैं बोल रहा हूँ एक condition is true and the other condition is also true, right? So when and operator is there na, it's gonna check if the conditions that we're talking about everything is true, then only वो पूरे के पूरे condition this bracket को वो true बनाएगा, right? So let's say if I go in here and if I write this, it's gonna say true, right? Well, even if a small condition is false ना, एक कोई सा भी condition false हो जाएगा, so now you'll see कि this thing is gonna print false. ठीक. Now what do I mean by however many condition? Let's say I have console dot log and इसके अंदर एक bracket में I have written 1 is equals to 2, right? Or 2 minus 1. उसके बाद मैंने एक condition लिखी and in here I'm writing 2 into 2 double equals to 4 and उसके बाद मैंने एक false लिख दी, right? So if I simplify this a bit, I'm gonna get this as output, right? I'm gonna get one ये वाले bracket का output क्या आने वाला है? Just this bracket, nothing else. Is it gonna be true or is it gonna be false? True आने वाला है, right? So that thing is gonna be true. Simplify कर दिया. Then we have a and operator यहाँ पे. Then we have one more thing which is happening in here. So basically 2 into 2 double equals to 4. Is it true? Is it false? It's also true. तो basically यहाँ पे true आ गया. But then finally हमने एक false लिख रखा है. So if and operator is used and any one condition is false, na, this entire thing goes to be false. Take, so now if I go and uncomment this thing, na, we'll say okay, we are getting false. Right? Right? वहीं पे और operator क्या करता है? It's just opposite of that. If even one condition is true, ना, वो पूरे statement को true बना देगा. What do I mean by that? Let's say if I go in here and यहाँ पे if I write false and false and false and true. So we have 3 false, but आखिर में there is 1 true, right? Right? So this is gonna make this entire condition true. And operator use my bad. I should be using or operator. Right? So let me just do that. We just do that. Take it. So if I go in here, we'll see it's true. Take it. Take. Okay. So let's say if I go and write some equation like this, it basically says 23 equals to 37 minus 4 or 2 is equals to 3 and 1 is equals to 2 or 2 equals to 2. What do you guys think about this equation? Aram se take your time and let me know. True? True. So basically, if we simplify the very first statement, let's just talk about this piece of right. So iske andar again we have some element. If I just talk about this thing, is it true? Is it false? This part, whatever I've highlighted, bas utna sa part, that is true, right? So I'm just gonna write T for true, and then we have a AND operator which says 2 double equals to 3. Is it true? Is it false? False, right? So एक bracket has true or false, and then I have a and उसके बाद let's simplify this. Is 1 equals to 2? No, this thing is gonna be false. Then we have a OR operator, and the second condition is true, right? So we have true false and true false, right? But we are using OR operator use कर, right? So finally, even if there is one true, everything is gonna be true. So finally, we are doing true and true. And AND operator हुआ है, so this thing is overall gonna give us clear. So if I do that, this thing is gonna give us true. Take chal. Now that you know about these things, okay, one more operator is there, not operator. कुछ नहीं करता, it just makes the result opposite, right? So let's say if I have console.log और मैंने यहाँ पे I'm getting result as true, and उसके पहले if I go and apply this not operator ने, it's just gonna make the result as opposite, right? ठीक है. So let's say कि this entire thing क्या आ रहा था हमारे पास? This entire thing, what was it giving us? True data, right? So if I just put a bracket up there and if I write this thing, now whatever result this thing is giving, uska just opposite kar dega. Check. So now you will see that we are getting false. Okay. So let's try to complete this thing. Can we do this now? Can we check both conditions together? Right. So I can write password length is greater than 7 and I'll check if type of password is equals to string, right? If that is the case, I'll do console.log strong, right? Or else I'll go and write console.log weak. ठीक है. How is it working without calling? Just keep in mind this thing is not exactly, just take it as a keyword, right? Rather than inbuilt function. Take it's more of a keyword. Okay, so now we can do complex logics like this. Can we do this? Everyone? Everyone? Easy, eh? Easy, eh? Any doubts in logical operator or anything that we have done so far? नहीं ठीक है ठीक है. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make our code a bit reusable, right? Reusable का मतलब क्या है? Remember that thing कि हम वेरिएबल को कुछ वैल्यू असाइन कर रहे थे और कुछ प्रिंट कर रहे थे. Remember, let's say I have a variable and इसमें I'm storing name, right? And then I have variable इसमें I'm storing last name. ठीक. And what we have to do is let's say I'm taking and I'm taking Kohli here. देख what we have to do is we have to basically greet our user. तो मैं क्या करने वाला, मैं console.log जाके यहाँ पे लिखूंगा hi and I'm gonna use concatenation. So मैं पहला name plus कर दूंगा और दूसरा name plus कर दूंगा. So I'm going and doing hi Virat Kohli, right? So basically I'm using the name and I'm using the last name. Yes, yes. But let's say कि if I want to greet other user, किसी और user को greet करना है, so now I'll have to fill this thing again, right? Fill this thing again, right? And उसके बाद I'll have to update it, re-update it and all, right? So don't you think we're writing too much of code? क्योंकि if we're creating a website like Flipkart, तो millions of users are gonna log in every day. तो वो क्या हर एक यूजर के लिए अपडेट करते जाएंगे, रीअसाइन करते जाएंगे? डू यू थिंक दिस इज समथिंग दैट इज वायबल? नहीं, राइट? तो बेसिकली व्हाट वी डू इज वी स्टार्ट डिजाइनिंग रीयूजेबल पीस ऑफ कोड. कहने का मतलब वी स्टार्ट राइटिंग फंक्शंस, राइट? तो आई एम गोना राइट अ सिंटैक्स. बेसिकली वी राइट फंक्शंस लाइक दिस, वी गिव देम नेम, राइट? सो लेट्स से मैं इस फंक्शन को बोलना चाहता हूँ, आई एम गोना कॉल इट ग्रीट. उसके बाद यू विल राइट ब्रैकेट एंड यू राइट कोड ब्लॉक. Have we seen this structure somewhere else? If else condition में देखा था. So it's not exactly like that. It's somewhat like in this code block, whenever this function is running, na, we're gonna call this. But rather than putting true or false in it, हम इसमें parameters pass करते हैं. What do I mean by that? Let's say if I go and write console.log this thing, right? I can put it in here and यहाँ पे let me add spaces also. So I'm gonna add empty space and name के बाद भी I'm gonna concatenate empty space, right? So now what I can do is I can just call this function, right? ये greet को मैं call करूँगा with its name and I'll make the bracket. ठीक. अभी this thing, this function is gonna call and वो ये जो भी उसके अंदर कोड लिखा है ना, it's gonna run that piece of code, right? But do we have name or last name anywhere? हमने कहीं पे भी define किया है क्या name और last name? No. So basically इस function को ना, or any function, it needs input to do things. So basically हम इसको यहाँ पे input देंगे by doing this, right? Last. And ये जो name and last name है, now this will be dynamic based on whatever we are passing in here na, it's gonna use that and it's gonna print it. So let's say if I pass in here Virat and the second condition, which is last name, I'm gonna pass Kohli. So we'll see now we are writing the name of function and we are calling that function with something. This thing is called like arguments and इसको parameter. So we are calling hi Virat Kohli. Now if we have to call someone else, we can just write the function ka name and we can just write Rohit and we can write a comma and we can write Sharma. So we'll print that. Right? So are we saving a lot of time now? Right? We don't have to write all of this again. All we have to do is we have to just write the function name, usko call karna hai, and in that we are writing this thing. Right? So again, I'm throwing a lot of technical terms here. Basically, whenever you define a function, right? अगर वो function define करके छोड़ दोगे, this piece of code is never accessible. कभी accessible नहीं होगा, right? Even though मैं जाके यहाँ पे variable मैं जाके इसको अनकमेंट कर दूं ना, तो अभी वी हैव अ नेम, वी हैव अ लास्ट नेम, राइट? इट्स स्टिल नॉट गोना प्रिंट अप अंटिल आप उस फंक्शन को कॉल नहीं करते हो, राइट? तो यू हैव टू कॉल दिस फंक्शन टू रन दैट पीस ऑफ कोड. नाउ हाउ विल दिस थिंग गोना बी यूजफुल? क्यों यूजफुल होने वाला है? बिकॉज गोइंग फॉरवर्ड क्या होगा, वी आर गोना हैव बटन्स एंड ऑल. बटन्स होने वाले हैं, buttons होने वाले हैं, and when we press on that button, when we press on that button, we're gonna run some functionality, right? तो basically आगे चल के क्या होने वाला है, in these buttons ना we're gonna store the function का call, right? So let's say हमने greet function लिखा, तो हम उसको यहाँ पे call करेंगे, greet function. Whenever I'm pressing on this button ना, I'm gonna call this function, and ये button क्या करेगा, जाके JavaScript में वो function खोजेगा, it's gonna find that greet function, let's say greet, and ये इस piece of code को run करेगा, राइट? तो जब हम वेबसाइट्स क्रिएट करेंगे ना, बटन्स बनाने के टाइम फंक्शन इज गोना कम वेरी मच हैंडी. क्लियर? क्लियर? लॉन्ग टर्म में क्या फंक्शन यूज होने वाला है, इज दैट क्लियर? ठीक, ओके. तो एक स्मॉल चीज बताओ, नाउ कैन वी मेक दिस थिंग डायनेमिक ऑल्सो? जो हमने ये किया है, कैन वी मेक दिस थिंग डायनेमिक ऑल्सो? Right? All we have to do is we have to write function. Let's say we call it check password, right? And इसके अंदर will be passing that pass. I'll create this code block. I'll put this thing inside in here. Will it run directly? नहीं. So what should I do? I should call the function. I'll write the name of the function. नाम लिखूंगा function का, and I'll call it with whatever parameter देते हैं ना, pass. Right? So let's say मुझे pass करना है password 1 2 3. We're printing that. Let's say मैंने सिर्फ pass print किया, तो it's saying make password. Clear? And you can call it however many times, जितनी बार कॉल करना है keep calling. ठीक है? Function clear? Any doubts? Any doubts? No? All right. So now we have to talk about something which is called loops. ठीक? Loop का मतलब पता है किसी को? Anyone? Not technically, just randomly. English, Hindi, anything. Do you understand what does loop means? Repeat करना, cycle करना, right? Right. So let's say if I want to print hello, and I want to count कि कितनी बार मैंने ये hello print किया, right? So with this hello I want to print hello 1, then I want to print hello 2, then I want to print hello 3, then I want to print hello 4. तो by now अभी तक हम क्या करेंगे, we are gonna define a variable and we are gonna call it hello, right? And उसमें we are gonna store our hello. ठीक? And whenever I'm doing console.log, I'll be doing hello plus 1, right? Console.log hello plus 2, right? Right? So we are doing some task like this, but we have to write multiple lines of code for a small thing again and again. Let's say किसी ने बोला आपको you have to do this till 200. Do we have to write a lot of code here? Right? Possible है, but कितना ज़्यादा लिखना पड़ेगा, right? So to fix this, we have something which are called loops, right? वो loop क्या करते हैं? We can control those loops and we can run it however many times we want. But before that, you have to understand a small thing, which is basically called increment and decrement, right? So rather than keep on writing 1 or 2, हम क्या कर सकते थे? We could have defined a variable which is gonna be called count, right? And in this count, let's say I want to start with 1. मैं यहाँ पे जाके लिखता count. ठीक? Once I have done this, what I would have done, मैं बोलता count. Now onward, आप क्या होगे? Count plus 1, right? So by that logic, अगर मैं यहाँ पे count print करूँगा, I'm gonna get count 2. These 3 lines, are you guys getting it? What's happening? It's happening, right? So now for this third time, what I can do is count equals to count plus 1, and यहाँ पे जाके I'll write console.log hello plus. ठीक, but rather than solving our problem, are we not increasing the line of code? Right? So rather than doing that, we can just go and use increment operators. Right? What does that mean? एक बार count plus हो गया, you can just go and write count plus. Right? So this thing is basically postfix variable जैसे ही use हुआ ना, उसके साथ में you apply this. Right? So now you see कि if I go and apply count plus, you'll see कि इतना लिखना नहीं पड़ रहा है, it just directly adds it up. Right? Directly add कर दे रहा है, we don't have to write this entire statement. So basically, when we write something like this, now we are doing exactly this thing, right? So this is a short form that we can use. Short form clear है? क्या इसको issue इस चीज में? नहीं, इसी तरीके से we can do minus also. I can go and write minus, right? तो अभी 1 के बाद minus करने पे वो 0 हो गया, and then फिर से इसको minus करेंगे तो ये minus होता है, right? So again ये इसको पोस्ट फिक्स बोलते हैं, तो उसी तरीके से वी हैव अ प्रीफिक्स ऑल्सो, मतलब वेरिएबल के पहले ही डबल प्लस या डबल माइनस लगाना. सो तब क्या होता है, लेट्स से फॉर दैट लेट मी शो यू हियर. लेट्स से इफ आई गो एंड राइट कंसोल डॉट लॉग, एंड इसमें मेरे पास var num equals to 20 है, ठीक. एंड इफ आई गो इन हियर एंड इफ आई राइट num, बट उसके बाद मैंने प्लस प्लस लगा रखा है. So what's gonna happen? Should I be printing 20 or 21? Let's see. Am I printing 20? ठीक, तो बेसिकली पोस्ट फिक्स क्या करता है, पहले वो कोड रन करेगा, वंस दैट कोड इज डन रनिंग ना, उसके बाद इट एड्स प्लस 1, राइट? सो अगर मैं नेक्स्ट टाइम इफ आई डू अ कंसोल डॉट लॉग नाउ ना, उसमें आई विल बी अपडेटिंग इट, बट फॉर दिस स्टेटमेंट दैट इज स्टिल 20. Right? But in some cases, if you want to add it directly without going in next line, you can apply this plus before, right? So if I go and uncomment it now, we'll see कि अभी ये directly 20 print कर. So this is prefix, right? तो variable के आगे लगा तो prefix, variable के बाद लगा तो postfix. Pre and post English meaning है, समझ आता है आप सबको? Everyone gets it? Pre-post. Okay. That's good. So we are going to use something like this in loops again. So let's see loops. So loops are going to be of two types, while and for loop. For loop is mostly used, but okay, we have to know about both of these, right? So pehle while loop. So, can you repeat? What do you want me to repeat? Post increment. So let's say if I want to add something pehle, so I'll be doing plus, and if I want to add something later, I'll do postfix, right? So in here I have used prefix, right? I have a number, and before running this line of code, I want to add it up, so I'll be using prefix. Now you'll see that it's printing 21, right? But let's say that I want to run this piece of code, but then in next line I want to add it up. So what I'll do is I'll do after that, right? So यहाँ पे it's still gonna print 20, but next time when we are following that variable, we'll get updated. ठीक है? चलो. So now let's talk about loops. ठीक, तो पहले आता है हमारा while loop. Again loop ऐसे लिखते हैं, ये, right? So you'll see this formation a lot. Basically ये इसलिए लिखा जाता है this curly bracket, so that we create a code block, right? So whenever these conditions follow through, then only this piece of code is gonna run. Now loop runs however many times this thing is true, right? So let's say I have a variable which stores number, and that number is 10, right? अभी मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, I'm printing console.log number and after that ना मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, I'm doing number plus plus, right? So don't think about error for now. Let's say कि I'm running this loop 5 times, 5 times. So I just mean कि I'm running this piece of code 5 times over and over, over and over, over and over again, right? So let's say कि first time if I'm printing this, num will be, what should I be printing as num? 10, 10, right? तो मैं जो num print करने वाला हूँ वो print होगा 10. ठीक, उसके बाद when after this line is running, I'm doing num plus plus. So next time जब मैं इसको run करूंगा, will I be printing 10 plus 1, which is 11? Right? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? कितनी बार run कर रहे थे? 5 times. So this thing is gonna have happen 5 times होगा. 5 times होगा. Right? So we understand what loops are gonna do, but how are we gonna fix this times? If 5 times ही run करे, that will happen in here. Right? So if this bracket is true, na, this loop is gonna run. But if this bracket is false, this loop won't run. So let's say if I go in here and if I write num is equals to or less than or equals to 15, right? So if I refresh, just quickly refresh this thing. Okay. Oh wait, did I just lagged? Wait, just give me a second. Okay, so that loop ran a lot. ठीक है, is my screen visible again, guys? Can you confirm? Okay, so what happened ना, ये वाला while condition मैंने सिर्फ num equals to 10 लिखा था, right? तो by default क्या हुआ था? This while condition was true, right? So if a loop is true forever ना, it's gonna run for infinite number of times. So we don't want that. Let me just vacate the server and run it again. Sure, I'll make it like this way. Right? So we don't want to run it that many times. अभी हम क्या करेंगे? Let's say I want to run it 5 times. So 10 plus 5, 15. What I'm gonna do is num is less than 16. Right? So it's only gonna run 16 times. Right? I'll show you again that is happening. Just give me a second. Yeah. So basically जब ये infinite times run करता है ना, the driver runs out of space. That's why we don't want to run it till infinity. ठीक है. Now that we have given it a condition, अभी क्या होगा? It's just gonna run up until this condition is fulfilled, right? So first thing first, we are gonna check when we are gonna run this while loop, कि if this num is less than 16 or no, right? So for now the num is 10, right? So is this condition true? Is this condition true for the very first like जितनी बार run करते हैं ना, that thing is called iteration, right? So we're gonna write iteration here and यहाँ पे discuss करते हैं. For the very first iteration, num is gonna be 10, right? And num is less than 16, so we're gonna run this piece of code. We're gonna print the num, which is basically 10, and then we're gonna do a plus plus. Next time when num comes in here, second iteration में, that num is equals to 11, correct? Num is equals to 11. Is 11 less than 16? Right? So we're still gonna run this condition. So that's why we're printing 11 and uske baad we're doing num plus plus. Same thing happens for each iteration. So basically hum 3 ke baad we're gonna print 12. We're gonna fourth iteration we're gonna print 13. Fifth iteration we're gonna print 14. And finally sixth iteration we are gonna print 15. Take in the sixth iteration. But जैसे ही seventh iteration चालू होगा, we have already done a plus plus, right? तो अभी num क्या होगा? Num is gonna be 16th. Is 16 less than 16? नहीं. तो now this loop will stop running क्योंकि it's reached its limit, right? तो अभी it stops there. But let's say कि I ask you guys print 10 to 16, मतलब 10 से लेके you have to print 10 to 16. How can I fix this? दो तरीके हैं, either I can go with 17, right? तो अभी 17 से less से 16, that's why we're gonna print that, or much better way I can do less than or equals to. So it's still gonna print till 16. Clear? Clear how a loop works? How a loop works? So let's say if I ask you guys to print 1 to 5, can you guys do that? Everyone, try it. Well, num is less than or equals to 5. Very good. So all we have to do is, let's say, just gonna comment this one out. Let's say I wanna create a variable where num equals to 1, and उसके बाद I'll write while num is less than or equals to 5. I'm gonna do a console.log num, and उसके बाद I'll do a num plus plus. Right? So you'll see कि we are running that num is less than or equals to 1. ठीक है? Although why is it running till infinity? We have num equals to 1 and num is less than or equals to 5. Yeah, this is fine. Let me refresh it. Refresh it again. So actually Edge has this issue कि whenever it runs out of driver na, it stops like it makes it lag. This is not an issue on Chrome. I'm pretty sure about that. कोई नहीं. It's fine. So if I run it again, and if I show you the inspect console, you'll see we are printing 1 to 5. Clear? Clear? Right? Take. Now, let's say if I tell you guys कि I want to create a function, right? I want to create a function which takes a number, right? And it prints that numbers table, right? Basically, वो number लेगा and it's gonna print the table of that number. So how can we do that? Basically, we're gonna create a function, right? We're gonna say multiplication table, and इसके अंदर I'm gonna take a number, right? And I'm gonna use that number to print a multiplication table. How can I do that? Loop कैसे करेंगे एक बार try it. So keep in mind, multiplication table में you don't want to do a plus plus, right? Rather than you want to multiply. Console.log num into 2, somewhere there, correct? Correct. So basically, let me know if I'm correct or not. While num is less than or equals to num into 10. ये condition ठीक है for running for a table. While the table is like we have to print from 1 to 10, right? Multiplication table from 1 to 10. So I'm writing if we have a num and it is less than or equals to num into 10. So we have a range in our hand, 1 से लेके 10 तक. ठीक? Num will be defined for now, it's in the parameter, राइट, नंबर को हम लोग पास करेंगे व्हेन वी आर कॉलिंग दिस फंक्शन. इट कैन बी 2, इट कैन बी 3, इट कैन बी एनीथिंग. राइट, कॉलिंग इज देयर फॉर नाउ. लेट्स नॉट कॉल इट अभी के लिए, लेट्स जस्ट कीप इट इन. नाउ अब इसके अंदर क्या करेंगे, आई एम गोना डू अ कंसोल डॉट लॉग and I'm gonna print the number, and after it is printing I'm gonna do number is equals to work into what, 2. Okay, acha, let me know if I just keep on adding this num, will I be doing fine? Will I be doing fine? No. Okay, okay, ठीक है. So let's say if I'm printing 5 का table, so the next number is going to be 5 plus 5. Yes, yes or no? Okay, let's see. So if I call it for 2, they're passing 2. Hmm, wait, let's do one thing. For this thing, right, we are getting a lot of error. Let's do, let's run this thing on JavaScript wala file. Right, so I'm just going to take this and we're going to run it in JavaScript wala file. I'm just going to put it in here and I'm going to open it with terminal. And I'll do node index dot, right? So again, it's running till infinity. That means कुछ तो गलत कर रहे हैं. What's that? Correct. I into 5. ठीक है. I'll do that also. Let's say if I'm doing num equals to number into 5. This is wrong, right? Right, because we are not going to print 5 ka table. We can print 2, 3, any table. So how can I fix this? There are 2, 3 ways. Like there are multiple ways. One way is that you can define a variable. Right, so let's say यहाँ पे आप variable define करते हो and this variable is called count. Right, now what you can do is you can do num into count, right, and once this is done आप क्या करोगे, you are gonna just increase count plus plus. Take, so you can update this condition also. You can say if count is less than or equals to 10. This is one way of doing, right? Do you think this will work? Right, let's see. So we're on node index or chase. I'm printing 2 ka table. Right, if I go and write 10 in here, right, so if I do in node index .js, I'll be printing 10 ka table. That's my, right. उसी तरीके से there can be multiple ways of achieving a single logic, right? So to try it in whatever possible way you think, right? ऐसा it's not going to be always कि there is one correct way, but you can do it in multiple ways. Clear? Clear? No doubts? Fine. Function में कैसे डालना है and all? Count count के place में दूसरा कुछ लिख सकते हो. Yeah, you can write anything, right? Variable तो you can use it. ठीक है, चलो. Now this was while loop, right? There is one more kind of loop which is called for loop. राइट, तो while loop and for loop में एक छोटा सा डिफरेंस होता है. द डिफरेंस इज दैट इन while loop the conditions are a bit off, right? तो you have like increment और decrement जो भी कर रहे हो, but you do that inside your code block, right? You're doing count plus plus here and you have to define that count outside and then you check the condition. ऐसे कुछ करते हैं in our while loop. In our while loop, everyone, we do something like this. But for loop में क्या होता है? We do it all in one place, right? So what I can do in here is I can define the variable here itself. Let's say where I equals to 0. With a semicolon, I can check the condition also. So I can say if I is less than or equals to 10. And after that, I can put the increment or decrement also. So I can say, okay, once this loop is done running, I'll do a I plus plus. Now inside this, I can just go and write the condition. Right? So abhi kya hoga? I'm gonna declare the variable. I'm gonna assign, check the condition, and I'm gonna do a I plus plus once these conditions are done running. तो अभी क्या हो रहा है? I'm gonna print from 0 से लेके 10 तक the numbers. Right? So if I go and do node index.js, you'll see I'm printing 0 से लेके 10. Right? So the only difference between for and while loop is that every condition is written in one line, whereas यहाँ पे you do something outside of the loop, something inside of the loop, and something on the syntax. Clear? And slowly you guys will find that for loop is way easier to use rather than while loop. Take, so now let's say if I want to print a multiplication table using for loop, can I do that? Again, by using a function. Can I do that? Yes. Okay, how? How? Now, do I have the count variable ka access directly? Directly, right? So all I have to do is I have to write a function, multiplication table. In here, I'll pass a number and वो number को use करके, let's say for var I equals to 1, I is less than or equals to 10, I plus plus. All I have to do is यहाँ पे जाके console.log number into I करना. That's all. That's all. Right now, if I go and call this multiplication table and in this I pass 5, I will be printing the table. ठीक है? ठीक है? So it's much more readable. Clear? For loop कैसे use करना है? Is it fine? Is it fine? समझ आते हैं? समझ आते हैं? Right? How can we print table horizontally? So if you want to print table horizontally, right? एक ही line में if you want to print the table, you'll have to store that table somewhere. Right? So for storage na, in JavaScript or in any language, for storage of data, we have something which are called data structures. Right? In here, you don't exactly need data structure is छोटे से चीज के लिए. All you can do is you can define an empty variable. Let str equals to an empty string, and इस string में ना आप concatenate कर सकते हो. What I mean by concatenate, you can just do str equals to str plus number into I, and उसके बाद you can add a space. And finally, एक बार ये loop is done running, you can just do console.log str. That's all. Right? So abhi now if I go and run this na, I clear it, node index.js, you'll see horizontally out. Right? So basically मैंने क्या किया? I'm using concatenation वाला feature in string. I'm defining a empty string. I'm running a for loop from 1 to 10. And यहाँ पे what I'm doing, string equals to पुराना string पकड़ रहा हूँ, which is this empty string. And in that, I'm keep on adding number into I and then a space. So हर iteration में क्या हो रहा है? In each iteration, if we talk about iterations, first iteration में क्या हो रहा है? The string is empty. Right? So we have an empty string. उसमें we are doing num into I, which is basically 5 pass किया, तो 5 into 10, and we are doing a space. Right? So finally हमें क्या मिलने वाला है? We are gonna get a 50 and we are gonna get a space. Yes? Oh, very first iteration it's gonna be 1. Correct. So we're gonna do a 5 and we're gonna add a space. Right? उसके बाद next iteration में क्या होने वाला है? It's gonna be something like this. Right? So next iteration में when second iteration is happening, now the string is not empty. String में we have some value, which is this thing. So we're gonna have 5 with a space. And uske baad we are doing 5 into 2 plus empty space. Right? So ye kya hoga? It's gonna give us 5 with a space, then with a space. Right? And it's gonna keep on adding in that. Clear? समझ आता है this horizontal printing thing, everyone? Can we do this? सबको ही कर सकते हैं अब, right? So we're just using concatenation वाला feature and we are implementing that. ठीक है, ठीक है. So I hope there is no doubt in this for loop at least. Functions में कैसे डाल के बनाना है, कैसे करना है, no doubts there. All right. So there is one way of storing thing, then there is another way which is called arrays. Right? So let's say if I want to store information, but let's say if I want to store like ID of students, right? So where ID equals to, if I want to store multiple ID, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. ऐसे मैंने ID store किए, तो I can store it in string, right? But let's say if I just want to print the very first ID, what I'll do is I'll do console dot log ID and उसके बाद I'll write a square bracket, right? And इसमें I'll write the place of this thing, right? तो keep in mind जो place है ना, it's called index. Be it string, right? तो string में the places are called index, right? And index जो है ना, it always starts with 0. So basically orientation क्या होने वाला है? The first thing is gonna be present at 0th position. उसके बाद the space will also count, right? So the space is at first condition, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth इस तरीके से, right? So fifth and then sixth, seventh, then eighth, ninth, 10th and then 11th, 12th ऐसे करते हैं, right? So let's keep it at 9th क्योंकि फिर double digit हो जाता है, फिर that's not right. So why do I write this or confuse क्यों कर रहा आपको? Because let's say if I just want to access this one, I'll be writing 0, right? So if I go and run it, let's go back in. Again, let's say I have that string. Is this thing running? No. इसको दूसरे सर्वर पे रन करके. Yeah, ठीक है. तो we are running this. Now, let's say if I had the string, right? So this, oh my God, I'll run it again. So let me again run this out. Now, so now let's say I have a string, right? And guys, I know it's getting boring, but take it going in. We have to cover it, so let's do it quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. यहाँ तक ही रखते हैं, right? So let's say string में I just want to access the very first element or number जो भी है, right? I just want to access the very first thing. So what I can do is I can write console dot log. I'll write the string का नाम and after square bracket I can write the position. तो position जो है ना, it starts from 0. So I can go and write 0 in here and you'll see I'm just printing 1. Take, if I go in here and if I write console.log str1, you'll see that I'm not printing anything. Why? String में क्या होता है ना, we also count the spaces, right? So if I go and write console.log str2, you'll see I'll print 2, right? So is it clear कि how we can access individual elements in a string? अगर मुझे string में individual element access करना है, how I can do that? Right? So this is fine. Do you think if I want to print each and every element, can I use loop for this? Can this 0, 1, 2, 3 can be made dynamic? ये dynamic बना सकते हैं? Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Right? So all we have to do is we have to write a for loop where I equals to 0, क्योंकि index starts from 0, I'll say I is less than. Now the string can be of any length, right? It can be 1 to 5, it can be 1 to 100 or anything. So you don't have to fix the number here. Number ko bhi we can make dynamic. All you have to do is you have to calculate the string ka length. So what you'll do is you'll write str.length, str.length, right? And then I'll do I plus plus. अभी क्या हो रहा है? We're gonna start from 0. String का length क्या है? Can anyone tell me? It's 5 plus 4 spaces, so basically 9, right? Right, 9 है total. Space भी count होता है string में. So I can go in here and I can write console dot log str I, right? And stay is not defined. Okay, we run it once again. Yeah, ठीक है. So we are printing first 1 and 2 like this, and उसके बाद we are printing 1 with space, 2 with space, 3 with space, and 4 with space. Clear? So if you want to print elements of this thing, you can go and do this, right? But again, ये जो spaces वाला thing है ना, this is not very good for storing informations like this. So rather than using string, हम क्या करते हैं? We go and use array, right? So we go and use array. Array कैसे defined होता है? You can give the variable any name. Array is defined with a square bracket itself. And इसके अंदर you can go and store this information. You can write 1, then you can write a comma, you can write 2, then you can write a comma, 3, comma, 4, comma, 5. Right? You can access it exactly like this. आप जाके लिखोगे console.log array 0. You'll be able to access the very first element. But now यहाँ पे it won't be considering the spaces. Right? So now you can just directly access 1 and वो 2 print कर देगा. Right? Dot length will also work in this. So if I go and write for var, or let's say, guys, ये variable can be predefined, right? So let's say मैं यहाँ पे जाके लिखता हूँ var I ऐसे, तो I'll be defining this I, but value मैं इसको बाद में दूंगा. So this thing can totally work, right? I'll do this. I'll do I is less than array dot length, and उसके बाद I'll do a I plus plus. And इसके अंदर I can just write console dot log array, and I'll be printing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Clear? So array is way more better to use rather than string. Right? Can we print this without space in string? Of course you can. You can apply some logic in it, right? Logic अगर लगाओगे तो you can do anything in JavaScript. So logic कैसे लगाएंगे? We know कि at odd positions only we have numbers, right? Even positions पे हमारे पास spaces है, right? So can we fix this thing? Can we fix this thing? All I have to do is I have to write a if condition. If I divisible by 2 is equals to 0 or 1, जब वो odd है, only then print this. Right? So now if I refresh it, see, I'm just printing 1 to, it's not printing this. Wait, let's comment this one out. Take it. So it's printing space. So yeah, it's printing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Clear? Clear? So again, you can write a logic and it will work. For you can write minus, of course. For loop maybe minus can work, right? It will decrease the I. That's right. Okay. So we were talking about it, right? So again, array or string में एक छोटा सा और difference होता है. Let's say I have a str, right? इसमें I have stored 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then I have a array. इसमें I have stored 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If I want to change one of these IDs, na, string में I can't do it, but in array I can very easily do it. So let's say अगर मैं जाऊँ and if I pick str and I want to pick the very first element, so I'll write 0 and I say equals to 1. or let's say 10. So I'm basically picking this thing and trying to update it. I'm assigning it, reassigning it some value, right? So if I go and do console dot log str0, abhi bhi, game running, so we get it. Okay, I'll have to actually fix this live server. By default, it's running on Edge. I'll fix it by any session. Show me run another server and okay, not an issue. I'm just gonna pick this thing, take this thing on JavaScript wala side, right? So we'll do it in here. यहाँ पे if I go and add this thing, and I'm gonna run it on integrated terminal, right? So chicken. So यहाँ पे if I go and run node index.js, we'll see that thing is still printing 1, even though I tried upgrading it. But array may we can simply update it. Let's say if I pick array 0 equals to 11. Now if I do console.log array 0, it will be printing 11, right? So if I do node index.js, HTML node index.js, right? So it will be printing 11 rather than 1. Take, so all you have to do is you have to be aware about the position and you can simply update it. Right? Clear the difference between string and array? Everyone? Everyone? Take, so just a small thing before we end the session. Let's say I have some numbers and I wanna double those. Right? Basically, मेरे पास numbers है like 2, 4 and 6 and 9. And मुझे क्या करना? I just want to double these numbers. So which will be better to use, string or array to do this? Array, because we can update the array, right? So we can have this thing in array. I can call it var my array or something, right? And मैं क्या करूँगा? I can just do for where I equals to 0, क्योंकि array and string both का index 0 से start होता है. I'll do I is less than my array dot length and I'll do I plus plus, right? And in here, all I have to do is I have to pick the element and I have to multiply it with 2. So I'll do my array I equals to my array I into 2. Right? So if I go and finally print console.log my array, we'll see if I do index.js, I'm just updating. We're getting undefined. Either need, my bad. We have to do it outside of the square bracket. So we clear it. Node index.js. We'll see कि हमने हर एक number double कर दिया. Right, so you can do multiple operations using array. Array basically helps you to update elements also. String may you can't do that. Take, so we have covered a lot things in today's session, right? So just doing a quick recap of whatever we have learned, right? So I'm just gonna do a quick recap, nothing else, right? So we started with variable, right? Variable has a value which has data type. Remember, everyone, just yes or no. I know thak gaye ho. Just write 1 or 0, that's fine. Right? Uske baad we learned कि we have operators, right? Operators में we first learned about mathematical operator, math wale operator. So we had plus, we had minus, we had division, and we have multiplication. We had 2 more, right? Mod operator, ये क्या देता है? Does it give quotient or does it give remainder? Remainder, right? Remainder देता है, right? Remainder देता है. And then we had power wala also. So that is your mathematical operator. Then we had comparison operator, right? In which we can compare things less than, greater than, less than equals to, greater than equals to, and finally दो number को compare करने के, right? Also, guys, I didn't get time to cover it, but do find out what is difference between double equals to and triple equals to. It should be there in notes, but this is a small homework. Try doing it everywhere. ठीक ठीक है. उसके बाद we learned about one more operator which was logical operator. How many operators do we have in logical? Logical में कितने हैं? 3, right? We had and, we had or, and we had not, right? If I go and write console.log true and false, what should I be getting? False. And if I write if I write or false, I'll be getting that. And if I just take this entire thing and इसके आगे एक not लगा दूँ, so what should I be getting? Just the opposite, right? तो ये true आएगा and we are gonna print opposite of that, which is false. Take. After that, we started with loop. We have two different loop. We have while and for loop, right? We can use this to automate our task, right? We have to print something in range. We can just go with that. ठीक. So everyone clear with how to use while loop and for loop? किसी को कोई doubt while loop और या for loop कैसे use करते हैं? Anyone? No? ठीक है. उसके बाद we had conditional statements which were if and else, right? There are few more, but this is more important one, so just cover that, right? And finally we learned about functions, right? So functions you guys will find धीरे धीरे कि it's very important bit of JavaScript. राइट. फंक्शन जितना आपका कोड इजी कर देता है, इट कैन मेक इट इजी. ठीक. देन वी लर्नड अबाउट स्ट्रिंग्स एंड एरे एंड हाउ डू वी एक्सेस थिंग्स इन इट. कौन सा अपडेट कर सकते हैं एलिमेंट्स? कैन वी अपडेट एलिमेंट्स इन स्ट्रिंग और कैन वी अपडेट एलिमेंट्स इन एरे? Array. So if you want to store information, which is better to use, string or array? Array. Right. If I want to find the length of string, how can I do that? str.length, string.length, right? और अगर मुझे array का length find करना है, exactly same array dot. ठीक. So yeah, with that, let's end the session, guys. Notes check करना. Do your quiz also, right? Quiz will have easy question, but it will give you a quick recap of everything, right? ठीक है. So with that, let's end the session, right? I know